Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to be diving into our Duraludon release tier list. Now, I actually need to fix this screen because we need to be about right here. Cool. And let's go ahead and dive into it. So Duraludon is out, and I want to update my tier list. This is solo queue focused, which really is like solo, duo, trio queue, but I will put some characters just based on their raw strength. It's mostly tanks and supports where these kind of tier lists get a little bit weird, but we'll go ahead and dive into it. So let's start with the Allrounders. Let's start with Aegislash. Aegislash is a pick that I think is really good. But the thing about Aegislash is that there's always just someone slightly better than it at any role that it does, but it's really solid. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a solid A tier. I'm starting to try to make sure that I use the entire tier list, so even though some things might be really pulled apart, I'm trying to represent their strength the best I can. But Aegislash is like a solid top laner, but it's not Lucario. It's a solid jungler, not Cinderace and some other jungle picks. So, but Aegislash can get a lot of work done. You can definitely play it in solo queue and win games. You can play it in 5 stacks and win games. It's a really good Pokemon to use, so I definitely give it that kind of like seal of approval. Now, Dragonite, in my opinion, has kind of taken a small hit in the meta for a little while, actually, since its nerfs a while back. But there's also another Pokemon that we'll get to that also kind of makes this Pokemon not the best. That said, it's still really good. It has super solid objective secure with Hyper Beam. It has the spammable Unite move, so if you're using Score Shield or Goal Getter, you can just score a whole lot of points. It's really self-sufficient. It's still really solid. This pick, somewhere for me, is like around here, but to be a little bit conservative, I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the A tier. I think it's another one of those all-rounders that's just really solid. Probably not the best pick out there, but it gets the job done and can definitely still be used to great effectiveness. Now, Serena. Serena has been buffed recently, and I actually think that she's much better than she used to be. I don't think this character is going to fly into the meta. I'd be very surprised to see if teams start running it in top lane, maybe, but that's competitive, and I really just can't predict that. But as far as solo queue goes, I think that this character is actually pretty strong. Gets a lot of work done, can really snowball a game, and yeah, I think it's a really solid A tier. A lot of all-rounders, in my opinion, are A tier. They're just really solid classic characters. Except for this one. Except for this one. Lucario is just the undisputed king of Unite. This character can just stomp. It's so crazy. If you're using E-Speed Bone Rush, great. If you're using E-Speed Close Combat did just get a nerf, but you know, it still hits pretty darn hard. I've played it. The character just goes crazy in the early to mid game. The late game, it kind of slightly falls off a little bit just because it doesn't have like the craziest Unite move, but it's just a crazy character. Yeah, Lucario is still one of the best characters to play in the entire game. If you're playing solo, duo, trio, whatever, playing 5 stacks, this character still dominates. It's admittedly better in 5 stacks, but it's still that good in solo queue. Garchomp. This character it doesn't really have a home, but I also look at it and I don't think that it's any worse than any of these other all-rounders. It's not the best top laner, it's not the best jungler, but it's still solid. You can play this in solo queue and win games. You can play this and get really fed and pop off and bring a lot to team fights with your Unite move. Like I said, I just think it's like a really good pick, but it's not the best pick. Like I said, a lot of these all-rounders really fit in this exact same spot. I look at these 4 all-rounders and I think like, yeah, they're all good. Serena's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Dragonite's like, yeah, I don't know. But mostly they're all just good. They're just not great or the best at anything that they do. But they're still really solid to bring to the table. As for Charizard, I think that Charizard stands a little bit above the rest. As a jungler, Charizard can get really fed and crazy, snowball a game. It's not necessarily the best jungle pick in the entire game, and we'll talk about some of the other really strong picks, but Charizard's phenomenal. It's such a strong pick. It gets really out of hand, has a crazy team fight presence with its Unite move, and is very good to play. And Machamp. Machamp is the other all-rounder that I think also stands out above the rest a little bit, because it can lane pretty well. Since the Karate Chop buffs, it lanes really well. You can stack and attack away. It gets really strong in 5 stack meta. It's really strong in solo lane. But either way, Machamp scales into endgame crazy strong. So if you're jungling, laning, the character's versatile. It feels overall really good to play. All right, let's move into the attackers, and we'll dive straight into it with Duraludon. Duraludon is S tier. This character is crazy. I think Dragon Pulse probably needs to get nerfed, but otherwise I actually think that the character feels really solid. I love the design of it. A character that is like an 80 carry, range damage carry with attack items that, you know, doesn't have a ton of mobility. They're either going to be really good or really bad, and I think that Duraludon is really good. This character is incredibly strong. It brings a crazy presence to like its ganks. If you're coming out of jungle, I think it's probably one of the best junglers in the game. Like, it's contesting that #1 jungle spot in the entire game. And honestly, even in lane, it lanes pretty well. Not the best, but pretty well. Once you get Dragon Pulse or Flash Cannon, it's really strong. And that's your level 5 upgrade, so really strong. Sylveon is the attacker that I think is just like solid. It's okay. It's not super great, but it's not like weak, you know. It's just not the best pick out there. It can get the job done, and that's kind of like what the A tier is to me. It just gets the job done, right? You can play Sylveon and do really well, but it's not the best pick. You're not really going to jungle this character, and as far as taking it into lane, it's fine, but there always are going to be better picks, and one of those better picks was recently buffed and is now Alolan Ninetales. I think Alolan Ninetales is absolutely insane. I don't think the character is overpowered, but it is super reliable. Ninetales always brought one of the best early laning presences, like super oppressive early, and now going back to the OG kind of like Fairy, Dazzling Gleam, Aurora Veil build, the character is really strong. So it scales into endgame a little bit better and has actually got more mobility and utility for itself. So I think Alolan Ninetales, really solid pick for laning right now. Greninja gets boosted up just because of the nature of SOLOQ, but Greninja is a really S tier SOLOQ jungle pick in my opinion. This character with Surf, with its smokescreen build, has a lot of carry potential, and so if you're playing this character in the jungle, please don't lane this character. Just saying, gonna get that out of the way for anybody that's watching this as a resource. Please do not lane this character. But if you're jungling Greninja, you can get a lot done. You can get really fed, you can really pop off and carry a game, and ultimately I think because of SOLOQ, this character gets boosted up to S tier. Usually, if this was a competitive tier list, I'd probably put Greninja in like A+ tier. I just don't think it's the best pick out there, but for SOLOQ, it's definitely contesting that position, and so is Cinderace. I think Cinderace is still insanely strong. With the current state of Duraludon, if I'm being honest, these two characters kind of are below Duraludon, in my opinion, slightly. I think Cinder's maybe almost even with it, and when we're talking about SOLOQ, only one of these three can jungle anyways, and they're all great picks for jungle. Again, SOLOQ tier list, I think all of these three picks are amazing at jungle. Again, with Cinderace, please do not lane this character, but can get incredibly fed, get really just massive, super farmed, do crazy damage in a team fight. Really worth bringing to the table. As for Cramorant, I gotta be honest, maybe this is a little harsh, but Cramorant is just getting left in the dust patch over patch. They just kind of like mini rework, nerfed dive, air slash, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. If it's a net buff, it's a, you know, it's got boosted, it's kind of like a rework, but overall the character is just not good. It's not what the character needed. The character needs help to its Unite move. It needs to kind of go back to its old self, and it brings a solid laning phase, which is exactly what Ninetales was, where Ninetales was sitting down low on the tier list with this character last patch, but it just doesn't scale and it's just not that good. So ultimately, when it comes to laning attackers, this is just like one of the worst that you could possibly pick. One of the worst, but not the worst. not the worst. That said, laning attacker wise, we got Pikachu and we have Venusaur. I'm going to throw them both up here because they're both insanely strong lane attackers. Both really great. They scale well. Pikachu can spam ults once it gets it. Venusaur, if you're playing Beam Venusaur, you're just annoying and you do a ton of damage. If you're playing Giga Petal Dance Venusaur, you scale into late game like a crazy animal that just wins team fights and does crazy damage. So these two have been and will probably for quite some time be some of the best lane attackers in the game. They bring SP damage, mostly go to bot lane, and they're just very, very solid. You cannot go wrong playing Pikachu in ranked. You cannot go wrong playing Venusaur in ranked. And like I said, luckily with Ninetales, I think that you can't really go wrong playing Ninetales in ranked either. So we got some really solid SP attackers finally entering the meta. And one that's been in the meta for a little while is the Gardevoir. Now this is a jungle pick. I think for solo queue, it's just not that S tier level jungle pick. It's really, really good for 5 stacking, but you do still have to rely on your teammates a little bit because you're still like a mage like Pokemon caster sitting in the back line, and you can't really be over, like, you don't have a ton of self-sufficiency for yourself. You can stun and slow for yourself, you can put out a lot of damage, and you bring a crazy Unite move, and that's why this character is so strong. But again, with Gardevoir, gonna get it out there, please do not lane this character. It's not very strong in lane. You can do it, but you're going to kind of be at a disadvantage in the laning phase, and then you're not going to get the farm that you want. It's just a much better jungler, but a really solid jungler, just not the best. And then we have the last attacker, Decidueye. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't think that this character is worth playing. It might be a little controversial, and I am just trying to slightly segregate and use all of my tiers here, because I don't think it's like Cram is way better than Decidueye. Honestly, I don't know which one's better, but they're both just super bottom tier. And Decidueye, the problem with Decidueye is that even though this character can do some damage, it just got buffs to Spirit Shackle. Razor Leaf has kind of always been like the better build anyways, maybe not anymore. But the character just has a Unite move that is not good at all, unless you're just like trying to hard rip an objective. The character dies in half a second. It doesn't have any mobility for itself hardly, unless you're talking about Shadow Sneak. The character is just struggling. I know that this will probably not be the most popular opinion, but I really think that as far as it goes, this character can't lane, so you definitely don't want to put it in lane. And the character, not well anyways, and the character shouldn't contest jungle when you have characters like Duraludon, Greninja, Cinderace, Charizard, Gardevoir. Like, there's too many, and even any of the 8s here, there's too many picks. There's just, it's simple. There's not everybody in a MOBA can be super viable. This is just how it will always be. Anytime I make a tier list, if we look at the game a year from now, there will be a character in this bottom tier. And for now, it's Decidueye, in my opinion. So, unfortunately. But let's jump into the defenders. Start off with Trevenant. I don't think Trevenant's the worst thing in the world. I don't. It just got buffed, but doesn't really change the viability of the character too much. It's just not the strongest. I think that when it comes to solo queuing, tanks are already hard enough to play, and that's kind of like that little disclaimer with tanks and supports in this game. They're kind of hard to pull off in solo queue, but as far as Trevenant goes, I just don't think it's the best tank to play. Would probably not dabble in this tank too much for solo queue play. It's just a little bit weaker. Mamoswine, however, especially when it comes to like solo duo queue, you got the freeze lane, you got a solid lane. Mamoswine's early game presence in lane, really strong, has a pretty decent Unite move, which is funny because it used to be considered weak, but the character brings a decent amount of CC, a decent amount of damage, and a really great laning presence to the game. So that disclaimer is it's hard to carry with tanks anyways, but if we're talking about the strength of the character and playing maybe solo duo trio queue, Mamoswine is one of the more solid tanks to bring in my opinion. As for Crustle, Crustle's not the strongest tank. It doesn't really do a ton of the tanky role, but it's really obnoxious. It can be super annoying, can rip objectives or bring some CC with X Scissor, and ultimately Crustle can score. This character can score. Goal getter or not, score shield, buddy barrier on this character wins games sometimes. So not the worst pick in the world, definitely not the best pick in the world, but a really solid pick if you ask me. So in that regard. Now Greedent, I'm a little on the fence about Greedent because I know that Greedent just got nerfed, and so like the invade strategy, it's still possible, but it's harder to do because you can't really make it to blue buff to do the full on like hard engage where you sweep everything. But a part of me still feels like this character is just obnoxious and ridiculous. The early game got nerfed, but that doesn't mean that the mid game and the late game got nerfed. So I still think I'm going to put Greedent in the S tier. This may be a little bit controversial, but I think even if you're just laning this character, it's super strong and super annoying and hard to deal with. So I think that Greedent is a phenomenal solo queue pick. It really is, in my opinion. I think that Greedent is just one of those, when you're kind of at the character selection screen and all your main picks, or maybe jungle's already taken, and you're just kind of sitting there like, man, what do I play? Sometimes for me, and this is just my own perspective, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I'm playing Greedent, you know, like, oh, let me dive into this game with Greedent, and then I go from there. So just kind of what I'm thinking. Snorlax, however, as far as solo queue goes, this is not the worst tank. In North American meta, Snorlax is probably a better tank than Crustle, but SOLOQ, this is one of those picks that gets really influenced by the SOLOQ tier list. I just wouldn't play this character. If you're playing duo trio, sure, it's not that bad. I still think there's better tanks, but it's not that bad. But SOLOQ, you know, I'm kind of trying to think of it in that way. I don't know. Snorlax is just not in the best place. You bring a ton of CC, and if you're talking Flail-Axe, yeah, sure, it's probably a little bit better, but you really probably shouldn't be playing Flail-Axe when there's plenty of other all-rounders and other picks to play. Snorlax is just not in the best state these days. The Unite move also is just not that great. It heals the character a lot, but I don't know. Just not the best. Not the best character in the world. As for Slowbro, I think Slowbro is one of the best tanks, one of the best defenders, hands down, one of the better tanks. Brings a crazy strong secure in the laning phase with Water Gun. If you're using Choice Specs or Muscle Band, you can bring some extra damage to the team. Slowbro does damage and can win team fights just by locking down a character. Again, this is probably something you're not maybe going to want to true solo queue, but solo duo trio, you're working with your teammates, you're communicating, hey, I'm going to lock this person down, kill it. You can win a team fight with and ultimately win a game. Now, because of solo queue, because the meta is not 1-1-3, the reason why Blastoise does not get played a ton in competitive is the laning phase is a little bit hard, unless you're like solo top laning it or something. But in ranked, there is no 1-1-3 meta really, so you get to play a lot of 2-1-2, meaning that this character can have a much more free, kind of liberating laning phase. Blastoise brings a lot of damage to the table. I think even though Rapid Spin's bugged, it's probably still performing a little bit better than it used to, but Surf and Water Spout, no, not Water Spout, I can't think of the other one, Hydro Pump, it's still a really, really solid build, and it brings a crazy Unite move to the table. So this is another one of those picks that is probably much lower on a normal tier list, or if I was doing a competitive tier list, but solo queue wise, I think the Blastoise is a great tank to play. All right, let's get into the speedsters. Talonflame is like the only speedster kind of hanging in there. This character, Brave Bird, Aerial Ace, Fly, Flame Charge, spammable Unite move, really solid early presence, good objective secure, good presence for team fights because of the objective secure. Is really, really strong. It's really like the only speedster that's like really holding it down, and yeah, I think it's pretty good. Now, admittedly, I got to talk about this. I'm a little torn on what to do with these two characters. I've kind of messed with this tier list a little bit back and forth, like planning it out prior, and a part of me wants to put them up here because of solo queue, but it looks a little weird to put them this high up because I just really don't think that they're the best options, but they're solid. And I think that a part of me wants to put them down here because it represents, like, I feel like it's better representing like where these characters' strengths are. But the thing is like you can get really fed with these characters and you can carry a game. And I try to compare it to some of the other characters in that tier. And I have some really good jungle options in A tier. Like, I like jungling pretty much all four of these all-rounders, and I like jungling these two speedsters. But I think when I look at a team comp, I would rather have one of these four all-rounders on my team than one of these two speedsters. So it's hard to put them on the same tier, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Should these two Pokemon be A or B plus tier? I do think that they're relatively the same strength. They both can get really, really fed in solo queue specifically. Neither one of these are ever getting picked in 5 stacks, or most likely not. Gengar is getting better slowly over time. It's creeping up. Part of me wants to put him here, and maybe that's where I'll leave him for now, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I do think when it comes to solo queuing, these characters can get very, very strong and do some work. As for Zeraora, I really don't know what to do with this character. It's like it's strong, but it's weak. It needs to get higher levels, level 10 for the Unite move. It's somewhere between like B plus and B. And I think this is also relative to these other two speedsters. If I put these two speedsters in A, I'm comfortable putting Zeraora in B plus. If I put these two speedsters in B plus, I'm comfortable putting Zeraora in B. The character isn't weak per se. It's just that it requires so much farm and so much time, and I just don't think it's the best pick out there right now. It's the worst speedster in my opinion. I mean, it's kind of tied with that. Like, I don't know. It's in a weird spot. When you talk about endgame fights, it's probably better than Absol. But if you're talking about just like overall, I don't know. It's in a weird spot. Zeraora is a very polarizing character for me and has been like this for a while. I've been having a hard time placing this character on a tier list for a while because it's just not good, but it's not bad. It's very, very confusing. All right, like I said, draw me a comment on that too. Let me know what you think about that one. Hoopa is still A+ tier at minimum. Part of me wants to put Hoopa in S tier because I do think that Hoopa is still crazy strong, and that would be, it's more of like the solo duo trio. You can hyperspace hole, you can work with your teammates, bring good presence. I'm gonna do it. I'm actually gonna do it. Hoopa's gonna hit the S tier because if you're playing with a duo or a trio, you at minimum have help, like support from your friend, and you at minimum have the ability to potentially backcap and take the score lead in the end game and have a Hoopa portal back to the center fight. So if you're playing this character well with a friend, it's still really strong. Really strong. Eldegoss, I think, is still probably like an S tier supporter, like in the actual game. But I think for the sake of SOLOQ, I'm gonna put it at A+ tier, because the inherent benefit that Hoopa brings, which is like, hey, go back cap and I'll pull you back, that's like a really easy play to make. But you have to like really support your team and get a lot of value out of Eldegoss. And I don't think that Eldegoss is bad. I just think I'm being a little bit biased here, probably. I don't know. Hoopa and Eldegoss are probably both S tier, but I'm gonna throw Eldegoss in A tier. I think Hoopa brings a little bit more damage to the table, so it feels a little bit more solo queue focused. Even the Unite move itself is like damage focused. So just kind of what I'm thinking about Hoopa, Eldegoss, but two of the best supports in the game, hands down, no question. I think that Mr. Mime is still really solid. As far as solo queue goes, I don't know if I want to put it in A+ tier or A tier. I think that it's still probably A+ tier. I know it got some buffs. Don't think that changes the character too much. Confusion got a little bit nerfed, but it still brings great presence. I just think that there are better picks, personally. I think there are better picks. I'm gonna throw it in A tier. This might be a little bit underrated for the character. Maybe it's A+ tier. Again, another one of those things, listen, I just kind of have to stick with my gut a little bit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Wiggly, if you're playing with friends, you're going to get crazy value out of this character. The Unite move is just crazy. The laning phase is crazy. It's a supporter, so keep in mind that you don't really want to just solo queue Wiggly because it's like a tanky supporter, but you have to just kind of like deal with the fact that, you are playing, with yourself if you're solo queuing. So keep that in mind. And then we have Blissey, which I think that Blissey is strong, but it's another one of those you have to play with someone to get the value out of it. Like if you're playing with a friendly Venusaur or Duraludon or something like that, you have to play with a friend. And it's just not the best pick. Otherwise, you're basically, your entire success is based on playing with a friend that you know is good. Because if you pocket a random teammate, it maybe will go good, but maybe not. So this is what I'm thinking. Like I said, friends, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And then there's some weird ones. Like I said, a few characters in here I just have a hard time placing. Whether or not Eldegoss should be up here with Hoopa, whether or not Hoopa should be down here with Eldegoss, but little changes like that. So friends, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like on the video for me if you wouldn't mind. Show me some support. I definitely do appreciate it. And yeah, this is the tier list. So friends, thank you again. Be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.